All right, our coverage of Space Shuttle Challenger will continue.
When Gemini 4 first launched men into space, Tang instant breakfast drink went with them. Since then, people everywhere have launched the day with Tang, because nothing fuels up your family like a nutritious breakfast in Tang. Tang has a fresh orange taste, a full day's supply of vitamin C in every glass, and it costs about 1/3 less than orange juice. From Gemini to the shuttle to Earth families, great mornings have taken off with Tang. Launch your day with the goodness of Tang.
The sun'll come out tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar that tomorrow there'll be sun.
There'll come a day when the sun generates more of the electricity we need to heat our homes, fry our eggs, run our industries. It's a day we all look forward to, a day in the future. So for now, we need other ways, ways we can count on, ways we have today, like conservation, coal, nuclear energy.
The sun'll come out tomorrow, so you've got to hang on till tomorrow. Come what may, tomorrow, I love you, tomorrow.
Conservation, coal, nuclear energy. Energy America can count on today, because today is what gets us to tomorrow. Sponsored by the U.S. Committee for Energy Awareness.
When Gemini 4 first launched men into space, Tang instant breakfast drink went with them. Since then, people everywhere have launched the day with Tang, because nothing fuels up your family like a nutritious breakfast in Tang. Tang has a fresh orange taste, a full day's supply of vitamin C in every glass, and it costs about 1/3 less than orange juice. From Gemini to the shuttle to Earth families, great mornings have taken off with Tang. Launch your day with the goodness of Tang.
T plus 7 minutes, and the flight of Space Shuttle Challenger continues.
I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. The Space Flight Challenger, the shuttle, was 18 minutes late getting off the gantry, but get off it did, and it got off in fine style. It is now almost 8 minutes into the mission, and Lynn Sherr is going to give us a look now at what lies ahead for the astronauts and that mission.
On day 2 of the mission, astronauts Bluford and Dale Gardner will deploy a communication satellite for the Indian government. Days 3 and 4 will be used to see how the 50-foot remote manipulator arm works with this 8,000-pound test cargo, its heaviest yet. The crew will also work at the McDonnell Douglas electrophoresis system, for the first time injecting samples of living cells to try to manufacture pharmaceuticals in space. Throughout the mission, astronauts will use onboard antennas to test the tracking and data relay satellite, the one launched into the wrong orbit last April, but back in position now. 6 days after its launch, Challenger is scheduled to touch down on the desert floor at Edwards Air Force Base in California for the shuttle's first night landing. Well, apropos of that night landing, incidentally, Richard Truly, the commander who took off tonight in sort of questionable weather at first, told us a couple of weeks ago that he really does want to make the first night landing in excellent weather. So we'll be watching that very closely next Sunday night or Monday morning out at Edwards Air Force Base in California. And now for those of you who can't get enough of it, just like us, we're going to show you another replay of the launch.
7, 6, 5, we have engine start. 2, 1. We have ignition and we have liftoff. Liftoff, 32 minutes after the hour, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
And apparently something from those solid rocket boosters set something on fire at the pad, because we have had some fire engines going out there right now. We don't know quite what it is. Of course, we'll tell you that as soon as we do. Meantime, everything else is progressing just wonderfully. The main engine cutoff occurred exactly on time, which means that the orbiter is progressing towards orbit exactly where it's supposed to be right now, even though it did get off about 17, 18 minutes late.
Lynn, as you well remember, we had almost instant daylight, a very hazy morning daylight, but it truly was daylight over the entire Kennedy Space Center at this point in time during the actual replay here.
50 seconds.
Gene, was it as good as being inside one?
Lynn, you know better than that. Nothing, daytime or nighttime is as good as being inside one. But it was very nostalgic for me today to watch this, and I'm happy for those guys. And I still have to say again that one of the most exciting moments I have is about 5 to 15 minutes away when I see that first sunrise. Those 3 new guys. 4 new guys.
Well, I think we all had a great sight. It was a pretty show, as NASA promised us. The best news, of course, is that everything so far is also happening on time. The external tank separated okay. It will now fall to the ocean and disintegrate. And we'll stick around and wait for the next one. Ted?
Both very much. It has been, for a moment there, it was nip and tuck, but it's been a spectacular late midnight, post-midnight flight. Took off just 18 minutes after it was scheduled to, but is now going beautifully. And you want to know what lies ahead? Well, 6 days of this mission lie ahead, but most immediately, lunch lies ahead. These folks, these 5 astronauts, have turned their day inside out, and coming at you from out of space, the Frankfurters, the turkey tetrazzini, the bananas, the almond crunch bar, and an apple drink. That's what lies ahead in the immediate future as they continue circumnavigating the globe and as the Space Shuttle Challenger continues what has now been an enormously successful mission for these first few critical minutes. We will, of course, continue to keep you up to date on the progress of the Space Shuttle Challenger, beginning with Good Morning America, which will be coming up in just a few hours, and, of course, throughout the day. I'm Ted Koppel. For all my ABC colleagues, thank you for joining us. Good night.
Throughout the mission, stay with ABC News to follow the flight of Challenger. Live coverage of tonight's Space Shuttle launch has been a special events presentation of ABC News. We now resume our regular program schedule after this from our local stations.
News is really a mirror held up to society. It shows us who we are, how we are, and what we're doing.
We bring you face to face with the world. ABC's World News Tonight, weeknights with Peter Jennings.
I've been in business for 32 years, and I've been a customer of Wendell Ford for 32 years.
Meet George Julian. George explains why he's miles ahead after going to Wendell Ford Town.
I've always seemed to go back to Wendell Ford because they've given me a better price than anywhere I could find in town. I've bought a lot of trucks from them, and I've got good service out of them every time I bought a truck, and they've helped my business be a success.
Don't go anywhere else. Come to Wendell Ford Town Isuzu first, and you'll be miles ahead.
They really do a good job.
As a journalist, I've been covering events for over 25 years. It's still exciting when I find a local news team that's innovative. I'm Sander Van Oker of ABC News. Every region needs a news center. In the Inland Northwest, it's News Center 4. Join Bill O'Neill and Catherine McCormick nightly at 6 and 11 here on KXLY.
The King of the Night is coming to News Plus 920, September 6th. Listen for the best in radio interviews with Larry King, midnight till 5 a.m., beginning September 6th on News Plus 920.
Good evening, I'm Ted Koppel, and this is Nightline. Space Shuttle Flight number 8, a spectacular nighttime launching from Cape Canaveral just a few minutes ago. We'll go live to the Cape for a late report.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. We have engine start. 2, 1. We have ignition and we have liftoff. Liftoff, 32 minutes after the hour, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Clear. Roger, roll. Houston confirmed good roll program. Standing by.
Also tonight, we'll look at 2 events that could profoundly affect American interests in the Middle East. The killing of 2 U.S. Marines in Lebanon today, and the decision of Israel's Prime Minister Begin on whether or not he'll resign.
This is ABC News Nightline.
a special West Coast edition. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
Just a few minutes ago, the Space Shuttle Challenger roared off its launch pad at Cape Canaveral in a spectacular beginning to the 8th American Space Shuttle mission. On board the Challenger, 5 American astronauts, including the first black American in space and the oldest person to make a space flight so far. Correspondent Lynn Sherr is standing by now to give us some more details on preparations for this mission.
Ted, this is what it looked like earlier this evening. Lightning dancing around the shuttle pad, causing quite a bit of alarm here, all except for the weather forecasters. They said at the beginning that that storm was going to pass us by, and indeed it did. So when the astronauts had breakfast, it looked as if everything at the time was going to be just fine. That's Dale Gardner, that's Dr. Bill Thornton, whom you mentioned, the 54-year-old, having a wonderful time. Commander Richard Truly, the veteran, Colonel Guy Bluford, our first black in space, and there is Dan Brandenstein, the pilot. So these fellas had their breakfast. At the time, they expected they would go. They expected that the showers would leave, and when they left the building to get into their Astrovan, which would take them over to the pad, they still believed that everything was going to go on time, even though, as you can see, it was really raining pretty hard. Big smiles on their faces. Boy, are these happy folks. George Abbey going with them. The rain at that time was just pouring down. When they got to the White Room, that's where they get suited up and helmeted and go climbing through that hatch right into the orbiter, everything still looked good. That's Colonel Bluford bidding farewell to the closeout crew. And then they got inside, and everybody did their communications checks, and everything was just fine, and they were sure everything was going to go on time. And then, of course, at that point, they did have that unexpected 17-minute hold because of the cloud cover. Finally, however, Bob Crippen and everybody else flying around said it would be okay for a launch, and here's what it looked like.
2, 1. We have ignition and we have liftoff. Liftoff, 32 minutes after the hour, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Clear. Roger, roll. Houston confirms good roll program. Standing by for main engine throttle down to control structural loads on Challenger during max Q, the period of maximum airline pressure.
If you were watching on television, it was spectacular. If you were watching here at the Cape, it was spectacular. And with any luck, some folks in Alabama and the rest of Florida and Georgia also got to see it if they went out on their rooftops or up on some hills and took a look up in the sky, because this was supposed to have been visible for almost 500 miles. And if the clouds were not in the way, with any luck, you did see it. The good news, of course, is not only did they get off on time, but that everything else has gone absolutely swimmingly so far. Everything performed as expected. The astronauts are on their way to orbit in exactly the right shape and the right time, and having performed all the functions they were supposed to perform. And in about a minute or two, we should actually be getting our first voice contact with them as they pass over a ground station at Dakar in Senegal. But now that you've seen them take off, now those are the solid rocket boosters about to separate, I assume. I was just seeing that videotape for the first time. Really quite a remarkable distance you could see at this time of night. And
Lynn,
Ted, I think...
yeah,
oh, go ahead, Ted.
Well, I was just going to point out that sitting right next to you is a fellow who knows exactly how those folks up there feel, Gene Cernan, who has been up there and who therefore might be able to tell us as we now go, what, about 18, 19 minutes into this flight. Gene, what's happening now? Where are they? What speed? What velocity? How high? And how far do they have to go?
Well, Ted, they're in orbit now. I was just listening to Dick Truly say that all their final little orbiting, maneuvering burns went well. They're in orbit. They're passing over the coast of Africa. Here we're 18 minutes away. That's moving pretty fast. They're near 160 nautical miles high, or they will be as soon as they make a couple more burns, but they're safely in orbit. They're in sunlight now also, so you see how quickly things pass.
All right, Lynn, just tell us quickly why it is that it was necessary for them to take off at night, and then we'll come back to you all toward the end of this program and get an update from you.
Okay, fine. As you know, Ted, they are carrying an Indian satellite aboard. That's a communication satellite for the Indian government. In order to place it in exactly the right orbit at exactly the right time of day and the right attitude with the sunlight in the right place, they have to be there at a certain time. And so they figure that out, and then they back-time their whole mission. And when that worked out, they discovered that they had to launch at night. NASA wanted to get a night launch in anyway. This way, they had a good reason to it, and they got it done.
Lynn Sherr, Gene Cernan, thanks very much. We'll be back to both of you for an update later in this broadcast. But next, We'll turn to the death of 2 U.S. Marines in fighting near Beirut and how today's casualties might affect the deployment of the American peacekeeping force in Lebanon. We'll also focus tonight on another surprise development in the Middle East, the announcement by Israeli Prime Minister Begin that he intends to resign.
There he is, the red-winged blackbird. And there he goes. You want some coffee?
Oh, love some. Just half a cup. Caffeine, you know.
But this is new brim decaffeinated coffee.
New brim?
Now there's a new, rich, roasted taste that really satisfies. New Brim.
It tastes this rich. Fill it to the rim.
Try the new, rich, roasted taste of Brim.
An idea begins. The ultimate microwave cookware system. Form follows function, and beyond, to durability, to versatility, with a limited number of pieces performing an infinite number of tasks. The ultimate microwave cookware system is from Rubbermaid. Quite understandably, nothing else stacks up to it.
His great-grandfather's law practice was above the local 5 and 10.
Well, Miss Young.
Good afternoon, Michael.
I'm here to see my dad.
He's expecting you. You can go right in.
Thanks.
His grandfather made the firm famous.
Hi, Dad.
Hi, Mike. Give me a minute and I'll be ready to go.
Okay.
His father made it twice as big again. At Rainier Bank, we've helped 4 generations.
Dad, did you have to read all these books?
Right here in Washington.
Well, some of these books belong to your grandfather.
We've helped start new lives and dream new dreams. Whether you've already reached your goals or you're just starting out.
Ready, Mike?
Dad?
We're one bank you can count on every step of the way.
Can I be a lawyer when I grow up?
Son, you can be anything you want to be.
News is really a mirror held up to society. It shows us who we are, how we are, and what we're doing.
We bring you face to face with the world. ABC's World News Tonight, weeknights with Peter Jennings.
Things are particularly unsettled on the Israeli-Lebanese front today. Prime Minister Begin may announce his resignation tomorrow. There is also talk of Israeli troops beginning their drawback in Lebanon tomorrow. And today, as you must know by now, was an especially bad day for the U.S. Marine peacekeeping contingent in Beirut. We have a report from ABC's John Donovan in Beirut.
This time, the gunfire from other people's wars just came too close for the U.S. Marines in Beirut. The smoke came mostly from battles between the Lebanese army and Lebanese Shiite Muslim militiamen. But some of the shells fired here today found targets among the Marines, and 2 Marines were killed. The mood at Marine headquarters was understandably somber. But what happened here today is by no means seen in Lebanon as this country's central crisis. Lebanese Foreign Minister Elie Salam, in an exclusive interview with ABC News, gave one view from his country.
We are sorry for the loss of 2 Marines and for the wounding of others. But when you have a conflict of such a dimension, with so many external forces involved in it, you are expecting to get some casualties. We got 11 casualties in the Lebanese army. We believe, however, that this crisis, as it was played today, will open the way, will open the eyes also of many people to the necessity of a speedy solution to the Lebanese problem and to the evacuation of all the foreign forces. You talk about the loss of 2 Marines. We have talked about the loss of over 100,000 Lebanese in this war. We are all fighting together for certain values, the values of democracy and the values of freedom. We will die together and we'll live together. And I'm sure that the United States will not reach a level of softness where in any confrontation you will take an incident such as the death of 1 or 2 soldiers as an opportunity to reassess your policy in the negative.
And Salam feels that despite the losses the U.S. felt on the battlefield today, U.S. diplomacy is still the major route to peace for Lebanon, even if some are suggesting that the Soviets should also have a hand in peacemaking here.
We believe that the American initiative will succeed, therefore we'll stick with it. Whether America wants to broaden this initiative, that's up to the United States. We support any international or diplomatic move that the U.S. feels is necessary to get Lebanon out of this difficulty.
But you do put your eggs in the American basket, and if they say no, not the Soviets now, you would go along with that.
Yes.
What the diplomats decide could well change the role the Marines will play next here in Lebanon. They are still training the Lebanese army to take control of this country. The question is whether the Marines will someday have to fight with the Lebanese side by side. On the other hand, for these men who have now experienced combat, the diplomats might just come up with some solution that lets the Marines go back home. This is John Donovan for Nightline in Beirut.
Predictably, those first U.S. Marine combat deaths in Lebanon have raised new questions about the merit of having the Marines there. In a moment, we'll talk with two guests who have different views on that. And later, we'll have an update on the Space Shuttle Challenger.
For a love grown strong, for a road so long, and all the ways it's turned. For the solid ground we finally found, for all the things I've learned. Because we've made it, because 1 and 1 is more than 2. A diamond, and forever I give to you.
The diamond anniversary ring, the gift that says you'd marry her all over again.
You're looking at the turbo that's aerodynamically racier than a Porsche 928. Renault Fuego, built with the same passion to perform that ignited Formula One racing. Renault Fuego. We couldn't make it any hotter, so we made it cooler. With air conditioning that lists for $640 free. Buy any new 83 Fuego before August 31st and get a cool $640 off the price. From Renault, the one to watch.
You can pay more, but you can't buy better than Tidyman's fresh, delicious produce. Satisfaction guaranteed from Tidyman's Warehouse Foods.
The guys told me last fall to start watching Bud Namick on News Center 4. I was skeptical. Give the new guy a break, they said. Bud Namick is our kind of guy. He not only reports the sports news, he lives sports. The kind of sports you and I enjoy. Well, what can I say? I've been watching him for a year now. And they're right. Besides, with a name like Bud, he's got to be great.
Bud Namick and News Center 4. Add to your life every day.
What a lovely dinner party.
Where did you find these hors d'oeuvres?
Love these
garbanzos.
I prefer mutton.
I love these anchovies.
Oh, I could live on salads, practically.
Please, please pass the gravy boat.
I'm David Hartman. Tomorrow on Good Morning America, we'll have the latest from the Middle East, also complete coverage of the Space Shuttle launch, and Andy Gibb talks about his battle with drugs on Good Morning America.
For the first news of the morning, tomorrow, watch ABC's World News This Morning.
When a woman wears black, she expects something to happen. When a woman wears Gloria Vanderbilt's black denim jeans, it usually does. They've got the fit the jeans are famous for, the tailoring, the details, and more. Gloria Vanderbilt's black denims have all the mystery and magic of black. Gloria Vanderbilt black denims. It's a shame to call them jeans.
If you hate the thought of going to bed,
George, it's 12:30.
you don't own a Spring Air back supporter mattress. Back supporter gives your back extra support where it needs it most.
George, it's 3 o'clock.
And when your back sleeps well, you sleep well. Get a Spring Air back supporter. Pay your back tonight.
George, time to get up.
Or you could pay tomorrow.
It's coming. A new company offering computer-like telephones for your home, the latest information systems for business, and reliable long distance that lets you reach out and touch anyone, anywhere, anytime. A company committed to the world's best service and a promise for tomorrow that only the genius of Bell Laboratories can deliver. It's the same company that brought you the telephone. AT&T, more than a new look, a new outlook.
At first, it was just an idea. An idea to build a promise into every appliance we make. A promise of pride in our workmanship to create good, honest quality. The promise of a product that assures you your money's worth. And finally, the promise of our entire company to stand behind each appliance. A promise we keep. The Whirlpool promise. It won't solve all your problems, but it's our promise to you to try to make your world a little easier.
Jane, have you flipped? You can't even hammer a tack without hitting your thumb.
Not anymore. I sent for this U.S. government book on car repairs. A step-by-step explanation makes repairs easy as following a recipe. And this free catalog lists nearly 1,000 government publications on almost any subject you can think of.
Honey, the kitchen sink's all stopped up.
Get this free catalog from the government printing office. Write new catalog, Superintendent of Documents, Washington, D.C., 20402.
Hi, this is Lucille Ball speaking for the YWCA. Our women's movement started in 1868 because the YW changed as America's women changed. After all, women didn't just watch American history, they were in it. Today's woman needs a better education, better health, newer job skills to lead a far different kind of life, one that makes greater demands on her mind, body, and spirit. The YWCA has experienced 50,000 yesterdays to help you prepare for what you'll need tomorrow.
And now we're going to switch back live to Lynn Sherr at the Kennedy Space Center at Cape Canaveral for the latest on tonight's Space Shuttle launching. And Lynn, in the almost hour or so since you and I last spoke, those folks have made it almost all the way around the world, haven't they?
Absolutely true. They've probably gone further in their time than most of the people who tried to get out here. I don't know what the traffic reports are yet, but usually the astronauts get around the Earth faster than most people get home. In any event, the astronauts are now coming up on the coast of Hawaii. They've passed over Australia. They have spoken to the ground. Everything is just fine, and they're having a grand time. So as they come up on Hawaii, we'll hear from them again in about 10 minutes or so, but they're really doing just fine. And I must say, I don't ever get enough of looking at this launch, so if you want to replay a tape of it, I would be very happy to look again.
Start. 2, 1. We have ignition and we have liftoff. Liftoff, 32 minutes after the hour, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
So it was 17 minutes late, but it got off beautifully, it got off clean, and all systems were working perfectly. And of course, this makes NASA's second night launch since Apollo 17 back in 1972, and of course, a first for the shuttle. And now that the shuttle is up and out and in orbit and going around exactly the way it's supposed to be, let's take a look at what it's going to be doing. The astronauts' first job, launching a communications satellite for the government of India. Then they'll pick up this big lead dumbbell. It weighs 8,000 pounds, and they'll move it around with a remote arm. That's to test its ability to maneuver those even heavier payloads in the future. Challenger's also carrying a number of experiments on board, including electrophoresis. That's to try to manufacture pharmaceuticals in space. And then the final first of this mission, the night landing on the desert in California before dawn next Monday. They have been practicing touching down in the dark, and in fact, they've reversed their sleep schedules since all their activities take place during normal earthly bedtimes. And there is one more first for this mission that, in fact, we haven't mentioned yet, Ted, and that is that the crew of the Challenger is going to conduct a live press conference from space. There will be 6 of us, and it's going to happen down at the Johnson Space Center in Houston later this week. And this will be, I believe, the first time that reporters have spoken directly to the astronauts while they're in space rather than passing things back through the Capcom.
You better make those questions awfully good, Lynn. We'll be counting on you, and thanks very much
Awfully short, Ted. Awfully short is what you mean.
Thank you for making the answers so good this evening. I'll be back in just a moment.
Every day, you're bombarded. Isn't it comforting to know there is a television program that offers answers you can live with? The 700 Club. Each weekday, hosts Pat Robertson and Ben Kinslow provide an insightful analysis into the crucial problems you face. And you'll meet people who have battled these everyday problems and won. Isn't it good to know that you're assured of at least one television program that really cares? Watch the 700 Club. There are answers you can live with.
Tomorrow on World News Tonight, the latest on the Israeli government and the situation in Lebanon, plus full coverage, of course, of the Space Shuttle Challenger mission. That's our report for tonight. I'm Ted Koppel in Washington. For all of us here at ABC News, good night.
This has been ABC News Nightline. For those of you who wish to obtain a transcript of tonight's broadcast, send $2 to Nightline, Box 234 Ansonia Station, New York, New York, 10023. Nightline is a presentation of ABC News.